Now, if you look at Rintorf, we're talking mid-20th century. I mean, he was born in 1925, but he wasn't writing much about this in 1928. And like most scholars, I know and preachers are especially prone to this. Josh Maynard, by the way, Josh, I'm only picking on you, Josh, because you're the first guy I looked up at and I saw on the screen. Josh Maynard will back me up on this because he's had me in class. And he knows that I like to be sort of self-deprecating toward our enterprise of preaching and ministry. Sometimes I like to point out some of the silly things that we do. And I hesitate to do this because I don't know all of your backgrounds, but I'm going to do it anyway. What's life if you don't have some fun? Every preacher thinks by about his second year in ministry, he needs to write a book on something. And it's usually because he's read at least one book on the subject. And so now he has mastered it. And he thinks, well, I need to, write about this. I had a professor who didn't write his first book until he was 60 years old. And he said my rationale for that was I didn't think I knew enough to write about any subject until then. And even then, I only did it because then I realized I was running out of time. And if I was going to do it, it was now or never. Most of Rintorf's work does come later in his life. So mid-20th century into the late, not much into the 21st century, but mid-20th century. And here's one of Rintorf's contributions. He says, when one tries to follow the gradual formation of the Pentateuch, starting from the smallest units, so that's source criticism, right, and form criticism, up to its present final stage, one does not encounter the sources in the sense of the documentary hypothesis. And when one tries to allege the currently reigning notion of sources to answer the questions raised by tradition historical study, then there's no answer. We can't answer where these sources emanated from, or when, or by whom, or exactly where they start and where they end. So what we do know in traditional historical criticism, that is, looking at the tradition of the text as it's been received, first by the Jewish people, and then by early Jews in Christianity, and then in the Christian church throughout its history, it's never been received like here's a copy of the J source or the Q source or this redaction, but it's only ever been received in this one form. And we cannot definitively say anything about the alleged sources within the document. Now, of course, that's me paraphrasing Rintorf a little bit there. The assumption of sources within the meaning of the documentary hypothesis can no longer make any contribution today to the understanding of the formation of the Pentateuch.